they will give you money, coastal communities, if you have parking lots for public access to the ocean and waterways. So we were able to get some of those, and they benefited not only the people going to the beach, but also our downtown as well. So we kind of got a little bit extra bang for our buck there, and we're still getting those grants. We actually are looking at closing on a lot up on the far north end in January. So that's still a successful program for the town to add on to our public parking. Like I said, the town was running parking. Up until 2002, we hired our first parking management company at Central Parking, and they managed parking fees collection and enforcement. So hired them and started looking at our 2001 parking management plan and said, hey, how can we get things going? And they hit the ground running. This is, I don't know if any business owners remember this, but we actually looked at a lot of different ways. It's like, okay, how, nobody in the downtown is providing parking. How can we get revenue to maintain that parking? So the town implemented in the 90s a parking impact fee, and it was a $60 application, and it was $100 per space per year of what your parking requirement was. And that wasn't, the implementation didn't go so smoothly, so it went away in 2002. So I think a few people paid initially, and then it wasn't incorporated annually like it was originally designed. So the town's always been looking at, like, okay, how do we fund things for our downtown area? And that was one of the ways they attempted back then. Continue to grow. Now we're at 2003, we're at 192 metered spaces, and we went from 7 to 12 lots. Meters and pay stations were the technology we were using at that time. That was the thing that everybody was implementing, and we've put in place up until recently. When I got here, we had a bunch of honor boxes. You had the honor boxes you went and put in on your space. People will probably remember those. But 2007, private lots were granted allowances to charge for parking in Central Business District. The economy was not doing well at the time, and some of the business owners downtown said, hey, we want to try to get a little additional revenue, and they proposed an amendment to the town code, and that allowed for private parking lots for profit, or commercial parking lots. And if you looked at the map when you're coming in, they went from 1 lot in 2007, now we have 9 lots. So there's a lot of those that are only allowed in the Central Business District, but they've grown substantially over the last few years. Things continue to move, and we continue to look at it. In 2009, council was concerned that we were overcommitting our parking. So we didn't have enough parking to support the businesses downtown, and they were like, what are we going to do about this? So we did an analysis at that time and looked at some options. Tax increment financing was one, which the tax value of the properties at the time were lower, and if they're lower, then you can invest, the town can invest in infrastructure, and then when a project comes in, you can pay back loans on that investment by the additional tax increase. We never implemented tax increment financing. We didn't implement municipal service district, but we've talked about those things over the years as ways to raise money for our downtown area. Strangely enough, we didn't talk about in 2009 is our parking program. We talked about all these different ways that we could raise money to help maintain our beach accesses, our downtown area, and that was not discussed. And then also increases, or we really didn't look at our parking program much until 2017. It stayed at $1.25 an hour, and $8 a day for years until 2017. And then 2017 it started increasing. In 2020 we got to $5 an hour and $25 a day, which is where we are today. So yeah, the innovation back in 2001 was the pay stations and meters. All the meters are gone. Text to park is what we're using now, and the pay stations are slowly phasing out. And we do have one going into Freeman Park, and there's only a few remaining in town. But text to park is the primary way that we're charging on our lots. Continue to have concerns just like today. We were saying, okay, council's like, how can we get a consensus on what we want to do for our parking program? So they created the 2022 Parking Committee, and this was included 9 folks that were either chairman or on one of our committees. Most of them were the chairmen of our volunteer committees. And they had 6 missions that council asked them to look at: rules, regulations, guest experience, parking zones, residential zones, handicap parking, private lots. So their recommendations came back, create a residential zone beginning at 3rd Street and equivalent and extending west. So we did create a residential zone in those areas. So you have to have a parking pass to be parking in the right-of-way in those areas. Add more and better located handicap spaces. This year we added, after this committee dissolved, we went back and added 10 additional spaces in our lots, and we're looking at a few more for hopefully next season that we can add. So continuing to add those spaces. Signage changes that clearly distinguish between town and private lots. We did work with the private lots at that time, and didn't work out quite as well, but actually I was talking to some folks tonight, and hopefully they're going to make some additional changes to help with that. So, and they'll work with us. Investigating the possibility of selling non-resident passes to Carolina Beach and Curie Beach Sewer Authority partners. So this past year was the first year that we sold passes to Curie Beach, and we're able to include them because we are both involved in the sewer authority and had that connection. Parking zones is something we looked at, and the recommendation was to take no action at the time. Basically, you have different zones where you're charging in different ways, or different people can park in different areas, like a colored sticker or something. And the committee said, let's take no action at that time, and council didn't. So they took that recommendation. 2-hour parking on Cape Fear west of Lake Park to $5 per hour and $25 per day. So if you saw the map in the hallway out here, that change was made. So there's still 2-hour parking on Lake Park and the east, but the west side of Cape Fear and those streets are $5 and $25. Offer discount incentives on parking fines if paid promptly was also implemented. Within the first 48 hours you paid, it gets cut in half. And then there's increases if you don't pay within 15 or 30 days. Reduce the number of tickets for minor infractions. We got a lot of comments about that. If there's something that's not a safety issue, that wasn't the focus of the ambassadors. If it was a safety issue or a no pay, then that's when the tickets would be issued. Reaffirmed existing code, parking infractions. So we did review on what is existing in our town code with council at the time and the parking committee, and they all said, yeah, we need to make sure we're enforcing those because we were having some problems. Things like parking in front of a fire hydrant, parking in front of somebody's driveway, parking right at the right in a crosswalk or at an intersection. Those types of rules that you see in everybody's code, but a lot of those were getting missed, and we went back and did some education and started enforcement on those areas. Consider offering free parking in January and February, which came to fruition. Consider offering free parking in December, which is probably a big discussion for tonight, but did not happen last year. Continued the policy of not selling over the bridge parking passes. I think that's the last one from the parking committee, and most of those were implemented. Just a quick snapshot of our parking program. I already said text to park and pay stations, and they're kind of going away. Text to park we like because you don't have to download an app. You can just go text the code of where you're at to the number that's on the sign, and it's real easy to pay. So town-owned lots, remember we had 7 back in 2000. Now we're up to 20. And lease lots fluctuate, and they typically those leases are annual. So that's today. That might change next year. It may go up, may go down. So we never know if we're going to gain or lose those lots. And then you can see the number of lots. You know, our number of parking spaces has increased quite a bit since 2000. And quick snapshot of how our parking program works. Probably most of you, if you're here, you know a little bit about this, but so I won't spend too much time on it. But it works March 1st through October 31st, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Is $5 an hour, $25 a day. And then November 1st to December 31st, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., $2 an hour, $10 a day. And then there's some opportunities for you. Your parking permit for Carolina Beach and Curie Beach residents at $40, and if you're a visitor and you want to come and get a parking pass for the week, you can do that for $100. I talked a little bit about the private lots. So if you saw the red out there, those were the private lots, and just so you see, we were at a little over 1,300, I think, and the private lots right now are at 543. They do have to get zoning permits from us, and they have to maintain signage, trash facilities, landscaping. Some of them are having to this year put in stormwater systems to prevent any impacts on adjacent properties. So there are regulations, and we do get site plans and know what they have out there. So. And that's my last slide. I'm going to switch back over to Bruce and let him start with our public comment period, which we've got a lot of people. So please be cognizant of that. We're going to have a lot of folks to get through, and I'm going to be up here taking notes, and as well as Bruce, and so I'll turn it back over.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to do this I've got the list of people. We're going to call them by name, please, and you've got your name and address, but if you would like, we'd like you to state your name and address when you come up. And once again, please, constructive input, respectful of everyone here, and no personal attacks. And you have 3 minutes. We'll have a timer, which you'll be able to, Ed's going to set up and see. And go ahead and apologize if we mispronounce anybody's names, because some I can't read, some maybe a little complicated, but we'll start. I know this first one. We'll start with Wayne Rouse.
Mr. Oakley, Mr. Parvin, thank you for putting this together and allowing stakeholders to share some input. I'm not here tonight to offer solutions, but rather for my 3 minutes, I'm just going to share some observations and some suggestions. Ed, just like the next to the last slide you showed for our parking rules in 2023, our current policy is way too complicated. The signs are so busy, unless you're pulling in a day when there's no traffic, you can't possibly read them. I should be able to step into, if you ask me to explain parking to you, and I step into an elevator on the 5th floor of the Marriott, by the time we get to the ground floor, you should understand how parking works. Otherwise, in my mind, it's too complicated. The next suggestion is for parking versus what we have now. I'd prefer an on-off switch. Whenever we charge the same price for the same hours. When parking is on, this is how much it costs. I can explain that in that elevator ride. When it's free, it's free. Now, it was mentioned in one council meeting, I disagree with something that was said. I disagree with dismissing revenue. If you're going to give up a month that we currently make revenue, if you're going to give up a couple of months, I won't argue with you, but I expect that revenue to be made up within that same enterprise. I don't think we go take the money somewhere else from parking. There are times when we have more demand than we can handle, as evidenced by the lots that charge much more than we do. Other than the message we send out, I will ask, well, I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to estimate every time we change parking rules and have to go change the signs to incorporate the new rules, I bet we're spending somewhere between $8,000 or $10,000. I encourage council to come together with a plan that they will commit to for the remainder of this council term. Whatever it is you come up with, before you vote on it, everybody commits to we're going to stay with this for 2 years. That's the remainder of this term. Our Marketing Advisory Committee will spend close to $1 million in 2024 on advertising, trying to draw people here. Excuse me, trying to draw people here. It's very difficult to push an effective message when the goal line keeps shifting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wayne. All right. Let's please hold up applause. All right. Bill Carew.
Bill Carew, 1520 Benito Lane. Mr. Oakley and Mr. Parvin, I'd like to open by thanking you and staff for organizing this open house. Full disclosure, I'm a resident and I'm a little bit frustrated. I want to make some observations and I want to keep it constructive. I tried to look at what I feel are some of the root causes of our parking problems right now from a resident's perspective. We elect our local leaders and then we immediately want to tell them how to do their jobs in detail. That's not how government works, not how government should work. When our leaders do what we've asked them to do, and we go back and we question the way that they accomplished the goal. Again, that's not how this should work. We can have an opinion, and that's important, but we need to accept the decisions that our leaders make. When we disagree with a decision that our legislators make, we mount an opposition with billboards, newspapers, Facebook. This doesn't help us. It hurts us, and it hurts our businesses. Yet our top parking revenue is consistently from the 2 zip codes right over the bridge. ROT revenues have climbed consistently year over year. New restaurants and other businesses continue to open here. We take policy made by our legislators and we tear it apart. We demand that they make a change to it. Parking was decided 2 years ago, and we've been making repeated small changes to our parking policy. We've wasted staff's time and our own money, making changes that have little or no positive impact. Lastly, we made a big deal about 2-hour parking in the off-season. I submit to you, 2-hour parking is the very least of our problems. Moving forward, we need to focus on our signage in both town and private lots. We need to develop strategies to attract some of the private lot owners back to participating in town parking. We need to stop trying to lead from the bleachers and let the leaders we elected lead us. That's what we elected them for. And by the way, re-elected the very same leaders. And most importantly, we need to focus on continuing to make Carolina Beach a better place to live for its nearly 7,000 residents. This will also continue to make this an outstanding place to visit. Thank you.
All right. Jeanette Mobley.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Mobley, and I live at 304 Birmingham Avenue, Unit 1. Thank you for the opportunity, Ed and Bruce, for inviting us all to speak today. For some background, I have spent the last 17 years in clinical research, specifically data collection. Good, lengthy data collection is key to good decision-making. Translate that to parking. Where is the lengthy data collection to make thoughtful, evidence-based, sound decisions? Where is the data that we can afford to make Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday free in December? I feel like making those days free was a knee-jerk reaction in the last meeting. I expect good, sound decisions from our council, not what occurred at the last workshop, and certainly the total confusion on where to park for those days. There was no signage for people who lived over the bridge to understand where to park Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We need what we all voted you in for, making decisions based on data. My recommendation at the off-site budget meeting, review the feedback, and then take the next 18 months to generate and gather real data. This needs to take into consideration factors such as future inflation and current data, the desire to make CB a year-round destination, and overall growth in New Hanover County. Once a decision is made, let's stick to it and have a commitment to lock in those decisions for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Gerald Hebert. Hebert.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm going to look at this from a business owner's standpoint, just to show, I think there's been a lot of acrimony in between residents and business owners, and sometimes I think by business saying we're just getting killed by parking. You really don't know the extreme that it is, which drives the need for us all to work together to make this work. I've been in business since 2017, and other than months with off-season parking, I've never had a negative month of sales, comparing January over last January, February over the previous February. The only months I've ever been down, and it's been between 20 and 35%, is the months we have off-season parking. Okay, so the off-season parking is really hurting us. COVID, recession, supply chain, that's been there year-round, so you just can't say it all of a sudden happened in October, and there's other factors there. Those factors have been on us all year. We've still been able to grow during the season, but the off-season, we're getting murdered. I think the worst part of it is not only the financial losses, which I'll put it out there, for my restaurant in 2 years, I'm down about $500,000 because of parking. That's a lot of money. The worst part is this is a restaurant that never closed unless there was a curfew for a hurricane. I'm closing now, and I'm considering closing for the rest of the season. And if the parking continues as is, I'll just shut down in the off season. But the worst part is I've had to lay off about 40 people this year already. I've never laid off people. I went through the winter, I took my losses with them, but the revenue's not there anymore. So for the restaurants, it's really hurt us bad. Now, from our standpoint, we're down on the boardwalk. We look at these parking lots every day. On the way over here tonight, I saw 3 cars in one lot and 1 car in another lot. There's got to be a way to lease those open spaces in the off-season or sell parking passes to those empty lots in the off-season. They're empty every single day. So I don't know if we can sell parking passes to 90% of the capacity of it, but I'm telling you, every day there's 2 or 3 cars most in each lot. So, and I think that most of the businesses would love to come together with the homeowners. I know it's been tied together that to help us, it has to hurt homeowners through higher property taxes, and to help you, it has to hurt us. It's mutually exclusive. I don't think there's a single homeowner that says we want the restaurants to suffer, right? And I don't think there's a single business that says we want to dump our costs on you. But I think, I see empty spaces. I know there's got to be a chance to work this out and come up with something. They're empty spaces. Let's fill them in the off season. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Rebecca Theodore.
Well, I was going to say a lot of things, but Jerry, I own Naughty Dog Restaurant with my partners. I share a wall with Jerry. I'm open different times than Jerry, but I can definitely say that percentage of loss is very, very similar to his as far as our revenue differences. The biggest problem for me right now, to not reiterate anything anyone else has said, is I've lost a lot of customers from Monkey Junction. Not being able to purchase parking passes here has been a huge, huge issue for me. Personally, because I've become friends with them as patrons to the restaurant. I also own the building with my partners. I also own a home on the island. So my viewpoint on this is coming from somebody who is paying property taxes for a commercial building as well as my home. I feel like we're actually in crisis mode on the boardwalk right now. Like Jerry said, he went and has changed his hours. That could have worked for me one way or another. It could have increased my business because he, who has never closed. I could have gotten the residual customers. It backfired. In the past 17 days, just the past 17 days as an example, I have seen almost no one on the boardwalk. I can go back even farther than that and tell you this is the worst off season. It's crisis mode, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't like to speak publicly, but I don't know what else to do for my friends, my business owners, and my customers. I hope that something can be done. My daughter works in Wrightsville Beach. I went to go visit her the other day. I had no problem parking. It was free. It's just weird. And I that's the first time I've ever been to Wrightsville Beach. And I'm like, I prepared for a nightmare. Ease. So thank you for your time, and I hope something good comes. And I thank you all for your service.
Dennis Barber?
Before we start that clock, I have to say, I didn't know we were limited to 3 minutes. So I probably would have to cut 2 out of 3 pages out of what I have to say. And
You can submit the pages too, and we'll put that in the record, what we use to,
I don't know which part to cut out.
Oh.
Can you use my 3 minutes?
I'm sorry,
Can Dennis use my 3 minutes?
is that allowable?
I just want to be consistent with everybody, so I don't want to, afraid that we'll start trading minutes off and on through this, so
And before you start, before I even talk about parking, I just wanted to tell you, I'm Dennis Barber, own businesses here. My family's lived here for 60 years, and from the first day we moved here, it was because we bought a business. And we've owned businesses here for the full, more than one, for the full 60 years. So I have a vested interest in everything we do here. And since I was on council and mayor myself, my primary goal was to try to treat all the businesses and the residents, property owners, equally and get the best bang for the buck. It's all about numbers, and that's pretty much what I talk about here is numbers. I was going to tell a little history about the parking, but the clock's running. But I'm going to skip that since Ed hit it. And I'll go on down and skip that part. Let's see. I wanted to talk about the what a parking space is worth. And this is education. It's not my opinion about anything. And it's important for everybody to know that. And what I did was simply take one of the parking lots downtown, looked up the tax value, which is, nobody's going to sell property for the tax value. Looked up the tax value and divided it by the number of spaces. And would you believe the value of a parking space came out to be $38,461.54 for the value of one parking space. That means everyone in here who has a house or a business and owns that property, your parking space for your vehicle, one, is worth 34,000, some amount that I just quoted. So don't try to think of it as just a parking space. It is valuable. Now I'm going to tell you, again, not my opinion about parking. I have 66 private parking spaces. Now, if you do the same math as you do with, that I did with the one downtown, I've got $1.9 million invested in private parking for my businesses to supply a place to park for my customers. The town, I didn't do the math because I didn't know how many paid parking lot, spaces we had. But if you take the town, $34,800 and some dollars times about 800 spaces, look at the value of that. Okay? It is a valuable resource when it comes to offsetting the tax that every one of us in here pays for property or business tax. He said 7% of our tax dollar is reduced by the amount of revenue coming off the parking lots. And that is just, we can't overlook that. I can't overlook that. If I could use all that property, by the way, it's required for me to open the doors to have that much parking spaces, both at my marina and my business. Okay, I don't have a choice. I got to tie that property up in parking spaces worth $1.9 million. Okay, in the Central Business District, years ago, we bought that property to supply the Central Business District, who already had buildings built to the lot lines, with an alternative to having to create their own private parking. Okay, so you've got a parking lots that you can rely on being maintained, serviced, patrolled to keep the ones not paying out of there. All the things that I have to do as a private parking space owner. Okay, the town's doing that and still bringing in over $2 million, offsetting your tax by 7 cents on the 100. Now, to me, that's worth a whole lot. And I got a whole lot more to say that I'll submit, but, you know, I'm going to skip all the way over to therefore. I'm not in favor of lowering our rates. I'm not in favor of forgiving the parking fees for the off-season because I skipped something. I said 66. Well, I have a total of 103 spaces. The rest of them I lease, and I'm paying $26,500 a year to lease those additional spaces for my patrons, the people to come to see me. Okay, $26,500. In addition, I spend $8,000 a year to maintain my parking lots. I have to coat them, I have to stripe them, I have to take care of the stormwater system on the property that I didn't even have a figure to roll into here. But folks, you can understand why. You know, I know I'm upsetting some people that think we should shut down parking charges for the winter, all kinds of things, but folks, I don't want to pay more tax. And if you divert revenue away from the parking by not having revenues for December, January, February, March, you're taking money out of my pocket.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dennis, sorry.
What happened was 3 minutes.
Well,
I didn't hear the buzzer go off and he,
You got about 3 minutes.
yeah, and
one last statement. Okay, if you're not interested in this, you're not interested in anything. Since I was on council, my motto has always been, and I'll quote it for you because it's in writing. I've always said, let the tourists pay for the premium services we offer, not the Carolina Beach taxpayer.
okay. Thank you, Dennis.
Disagree with that, I don't know.
All right,
I don't. And I'll submit everything else.
all right, thanks. All right. Nancy Nicole O'Neill. Thank you, Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Nicole O'Neill. I'm a former owner, property owner of Carolina Beach, former resident. I now live across the bridge in Beau Rivage. I belong to Island Women. My husband belongs to Island Men. We volunteer a lot over here. You probably see me at your businesses. You see me at the events. You see me volunteering. And mostly you see me spending a lot of money over here. This year, I was able to buy an annual parking pass through the old deck house property, which, thank you very much. That was wonderful. I did keep track of how much I would have spent for every time and the amount of time that I used that lot. And year to date, I would have spent $1,600 in parking fees. That I cannot continue to support year after year and come back and give to Carolina Beach. I believe in Carolina Beach. I believe in the events that raise money. The business owners, thank you so much for all that you do. And I want to continue to support them. But without the ability to have an over-the-bridge parking pass, you're going to take that away from me. I gladly pay $200-300 a year for that pass because that is how often I'm at the island. So I hope that you will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Amiot.
That's a long walk. All right. My name is Amanda Amiot, and I live at 317 Hamlet. Thank you for taking the time to hear from the residents this evening. Aside from being a taxpayer in Carolina Beach, I do a great deal of volunteer work. I'm also a previous owner to a brick-and-mortar business in town, currently the chair of the Police Advocacy Committee, and served on the ad hoc parking committee. When the parking committee was formed, we were tasked with a few objectives with no data to use to make those recommendations. The committee voted 7-1 that December should be free parking to welcome visitors and to help our businesses. Town staff reviewed the recommendation and advised council that December should not be free because of the additional expenses we incur. Being the Island of Lights, the majority of our events occur after 5 when parking is free. And the cost of those events are covered by ROT dollars, which are to be used for events welcoming our tourists. In fact, the only town-sponsored event that was held this year during daytime hours in the month of December was our holiday market at the lake, which I did attend with my family. We did a pretty good job supporting local vendors and left with a carload. When we arrived at the small parking lot on the corner of Atlanta and Lake Park, we sat and watched 2 Pivot employees walking that tiny lot for 20 minutes, ticketing customers. So we asked people to come and support us, and then we nail them with a fine. Not a good look for our town. So let's look at the numbers. 2022 was a pretty good year. Businesses were all doing well, and we still had a lot of traffic throughout the year. October in 2022, we netted over $130,000 in parking. That's a pretty good amount of money. In November, $15,000. That's a huge drop. And in December, $6,600. And that was all during a good year. This year, our economy has tanked, and the lots are bare. The island has always come together in a time of need for hurricanes or fires. This is a time of need. Our businesses need us, and we need them. They're the ones who constantly donate to our fundraisers for our schools, first responders, and people in need. They also employ a lot of families who need the paycheck. Tonight, you're going to hear about how a few business owners have hurt their own businesses by being vocal on social media, and that may be true. But it's nothing compared to the slide that WECT posted multiple times over several days to a viewership of over 200,000 people, showing that Carolina Beach was the only beach in the area charging after October 31st. That was damaging to the hundreds of businesses throughout our town, many of who are hurting. Our island is divided, and it needs to heal. I ask that you take a look at the numbers and consider reinstating free parking during the months of November through February. End all of the confusion. Parking on and parking off. No reduced rate changes, just on or off. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Fryer.
I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you today. I originally was going to come here and chew out the mayor and the council for the outrageous parking rates. And as far as pay to park, I'm too old and technically challenged to even know how to do that with my phone. But Wayne Rouse was good enough to show me right before he left. But if I could, I'd like to offer some suggestions for things that I think would help the business owners in the central business district. For instance, Jeff Hogan's got 2 free 30-minute parking spots next to his business. If the town could do that, at least 1, if not 2, on every block in the central business district, I think that would help out a whole lot. It would help the business owners to be able to, people, because I eat at all the restaurants on this beach. I go to some of the bars on the beach. And I just think it would be a big help to the business owners to be able to have free parking on their blocks, particularly on all 3 parts of the CBD. It would help out all of the businesses, like Hurricane Alleys and Nollies and several of them that are there. But I just think it's something to consider. If you could do that, that would be really good. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right. Jeff Hogan.
I had an intro. Jeff Hogan, 1108 Merchant Lane. First, I want to thank Bruce and Ed for hosting this, as obviously this has been a very contentious issue in our town, and one that I hope that we can get, in control. I, like myself, have the same sort of numbers as Jerry and Rebecca, and most of us. We're down anywhere from 12% to up to 30% during the months that we've added parking. My history is I've lived here 35 years. I love this beach. I volunteer for everything, but I am the chair of the Marketing Advisory Committee. And Bruce, I know you've sat in on meetings with us, and for 10 years, all we've done for 10 years is try to figure out how do we make this place more of a year-round destination. We don't need folks here in the summer. We already have them. But we spend $1 million to try to increase business in the off-season. And then what do? We become the only town in North Carolina, the only coastal town, to charge for parking in November and December. And why do we do it? Let's listen. In November and December, the total revenue was $76,000. Ed said it would be during the workshop about $76,000. But what did we net out of that? $21,000. If you have about 10,000 tax bills here in Carolina Beach, that's $2.10, folks. I don't think any of you would want us to go out of business for $2.10 on your tax bill. It's not going to happen. Parking is a simple accounting principle. It's supply and demand. There is no demand now and tons of supply, so we're just saying to the people that might come, please don't. Go to Wrightsville Beach. Go to the Outer Banks. Go to Curie Beach. Go to Wilmington, where it's even free for the first hour or 2 or whatever it is. We're just saying, please don't come. Please don't support the businesses. I can tell you this. When I opened Hangton 13 years ago, everybody said, you're not going to stay open in the winter, are you? And I said, yeah, because you know what? I'm not here just for the tourists. I'm here for you. I'm here for each and every one of you. I don't go eat at the places that close in the winter. But this is what it's forcing. It's going to force all of us to close in the winter. And we're going to have wasted 10 years in the Marketing Advisory Committee of trying to get more customers here by not, you know, by charging to make what, $21,000? The last stat I'll give you is our ROT dollars for October, because we're already getting a bad name, we're down 5.81%. That's not good, because Wrightsville Beach's numbers were up 6.5%. Because basically 2 owners that own Pivot Parking that live in Wrightsville talked us into becoming the most unfriendly parking so that they didn't have to be the most unfriendly parking anymore. We got to change it, otherwise we're going to have a ghost town on the CBD, and that's not what any of us want. We need our services and we need things, we need the amenities that bring the people. We really need a change.
Okay, Michelle Alberta?
I did a hair flip. Hi, everybody. Michelle Alberta, 205 Greenville Avenue. I didn't have time to prepare my notes, but I've been talking a lot about this over the last couple months, so there's a few things I want to say. First of all, years ago, the boardwalk was dilapidated. There were homeless people living there. Nobody wanted to go down there. The town built a new boardwalk and they begged people to invest. People spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to make the boardwalk what it is today. Is it perfect? No, but we're working on it. So I get a little frustrated when I hear people say that they're giving handouts or charity to the boardwalk businesses. These people invested in it and they're trying to make it a destination. And it is a destination. Right now, we are generating $1.3 million more in parking revenue than we were in 2020. We went from 1.6 million to 2.6 million. The town increased parking by $5 a day in the summer. The boardwalk businesses were fine with that. They said, we have so much business in the summer, increase it in the summer, it won't impact us, and that will give us more revenue. Again, 1.6 to 2.6 million. They also increased the citations to $100 a citation. It's your first day on vacation, you park a little bit over the line, and you get a $100 citation. I don't know anywhere else in the country, not even New York City, that gives you a $100 citation. If it was my first day of my vacation, I would be furious. I might leave. They also extended the parking months to October, November, and December. Again, we're making it sound like we're losing all this money if we don't charge for parking in November and December, but you just gained over $1 million. So we have to stop that conversation right there. I do have some ideas as far as what we can do differently. If we're going to make November and December free, we should do that in the town lots, the lots that we own, like the street parking and the lots that we own. We don't have to do it in the lease lots, so we don't upset those partnerships. We also need to simplify parking. Right now, we have 3 different seasons. It's so complicated. One of those seasons is only November and December. It needs to be on or off, as everybody else said. We also need to change the signs. The private lots look the same as the public lots. That's ridiculous. It's confusing. There's also a lot of parking spaces in the town that are not being used. Churches, my office, I have 20 spots. I've talked to parking companies. I know there's a way that we can turn that into revenue for our town. That would more than offset free parking in November and December. The other thing we need to discuss is the $2.5 million lot that we bought near the Veggie Wagon over there. We bought it for potentially putting water services there, but apparently we may not need it for that. Maybe we could use that for some sort of parking. Last but not least, we do have to address the stormwater issues requiring lots to have to upgrade for stormwater purposes. That's extra costs that the parking lot should not have to pay for if it doesn't have any stormwater issues. We also need to discuss validating parking options for businesses in on and off season. And lastly, I promise, we have approximately 10% of our parking revenue is citations. That's a very, very high amount, and that angers our neighbors from across the bridge and our tourists. The average should be closer to 3 or 4%. So we're profiting too much on citations. Thank you for having me. That's what I have to say without preparation. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Let's come together, let's solve the problem, and then let's not talk about this anymore.
Thank you, Michelle. And once again, please try to hold a pause and be respectful. Ron Stevens.
Good evening. My name is Ron Stevens. I live at 402 South 5th Street. I own Lake Park Steakhouse at 12 South Lake Park Boulevard. I'm a former business owner at a couple other locations. We opened Lake Park Steakhouse 5 years ago on November 5th. Off season, we attracted people. We've had people come from over the bridge up until the parking changes. When we made those parking changes 2 years ago, we discounted almost everybody from Monkey Junction south to us. People who go to whose children go to our school across the street from my house, people who work here, people who would go grocery shopping here because this is where they live. They're our neighbors, and we're treating them like tourists. They're not tourists. They're our neighbors. There are neighbors who used to spend a lot of money. They're not coming. They sent a letter to town council when the parking changes were made from Beau Rivage and the Cape and said that we're not coming. They kept their promise. They haven't come. We're full during the season. I don't care if you charge more for parking. People are still coming. It's the off season that makes the difference because we've told the tourists we don't want you to come, and they haven't come. Our off season has truly turned off a lot of people. This is most likely going to be the last year for Lake Park Steakhouse if parking doesn't change. We, like Jerry said, we're down a full 20% on average from March through December, and there's peaks and valleys, but on average it'd be 20%. That's a lot of money. Some of our guest checks are a little higher because the cost of everything has gone up, and we pass that along to our guests. We don't pay it. So the tax revenue might be up, the number of heads are down. And again, if we don't invite the people from over the bridge here, businesses aren't going to make it. Thank you.
Cindy Dunn.
Bruce and Ed, thank you all for doing this. I'm Cindy Dunn. I'm a resident in Carolina Beach. We've lived here. We bought our property in 2014, and we've lived here full-time since 17. And I'm originally from Wilmington. My family has been in this area since the 1800s, owned property down here, and we've been back and forth in Carolina Beach forever. I would like to reiterate to the people that have already spoken, you know, numbers are important in our budgeting process, and I'm speaking from non-prep here, so y'all. But I live here on the island. I pay taxes on the island. I own property on the island. We support a lot of the businesses that are here in this room. I also play golf and have friends across the bridge who talk to me on a continual basis about how our public relations nightmare began when we started not selling the over-the-bridge passes. One of the items that I would like to see you all consider doing is maybe some way you do it like with Freeman Park. You can do a lottery, sell a number of passes out there. But we need to bring our people who have supported this island back over here so they can support us again. I've heard the people speaking about the parking lots, the value of the property and so forth and so on. That's all well and good, but it's not going to be worth anything when our businesses close. We're not going to have a place to go to pay to park. Thank you again for letting me speak, and hopefully we can come to some resolve, because like many of us have said, this needs to go away. This needs to be made better, and we need our friends back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Matt Dunn?
Ed Bruce, my name is Matt Dunn. I reside at 907 Ocean Boulevard. It's hard to listen to people who have invested so much in this community over the years. You know, some talked about how the boardwalk was dilapidated once upon a time. It wasn't that long ago. I've lived in New Hanover County. My wife and I moved to Wilmington in 1993. You know, we got to enjoy Wrightsville Beach. I've lived in Wilmington. And then in the mid-2000s, I moved to Carolina Beach. And you know, there was never once any notion or thought that any of our, especially if you've lived in North Carolina a while, we don't have Florida weather here, okay? So one of the things that's not discussed about year-round, we don't have the same average temperatures every day, especially in November through February. They're cold. It's cold out now. It was cold out earlier today. The sun was out. It was a nice day. It's not beach weather. Put me in central Wilmington and give me a choice. Do I go have lunch at Wrightsville Beach in December on a Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon where I don't have to pay to park, or do I drive down to Carolina Beach where, hey man, I like going down to Fort Fisher and seeing all the pretty trees, the water. Maybe I stop and have ice cream somewhere along the way. Well, by every one of those cars we do not invite across that bridge, every one of those cars that we keep away, there's no telling, it's immeasurable. You know, we talk about the and I'm going on a tangent here, okay? This is straight from the heart. I've got prepared statement and everything. We talk about that inlet sitting out there, how we invite fishermen to come hop on our charter boats, and how that's money that you can't even measure the taxes the state makes when we bring those people to this island, put them on those boats, buy gasoline, send them out that inlet and back. They stay here, they play here, they go home and tell their friends how much fun they had here. Well, I have aunts and uncles that live in Wilmington who don't come here anymore, and it makes me sad, okay? Yes, the town needs revenue, but one of the things that we need to do better as a town government, and this is my suggestion, is that we improve our process when it comes to decision making. We need to include not just staff and council input, but we need to include stakeholders' input equally, okay? Because who do these decisions impact? Do we ever ask that question? Is it just the business owner? Is it their employee? Is it their supplier? We've got people in this room tonight who are going to speak. They live in Carolina Beach, and all of this has caught them off guard. I was there November 30th, 2021, when the decision to go to year-round parking was made. It was awful. And for anyone who suggests we should not speak up to our government, I'm sorry, but that's our form of government, and that's the way it's going to be until we get it right. Thank you.
Kelly, I'm not sure about the last name. Kagane?
Now, I've never done this before, but I'll just let you know that we built a house in Wilmington, and on December 1st, which is a Friday, my husband and I came to eat lunch in Carolina Beach, and the restaurant was closed. So then we went near Naughty Dog, And we're going down, and we had breakfast at this one place, and we're new to here, so I don't know the name of the restaurant. And they were handing out tickets. And my husband asked, "What are you doing?" We thought it was free. People were running out of the restaurant to make sure they didn't get a ticket. Right there, I don't want to come to Carolina Beach. They were running out of the restaurant so they didn't get a ticket. My husband asked him, he says, "It's only free on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday." It is not clear. It is not clear on your signs. I'm willing to pay, I live in Wilmington, I'm willing to pay $100 to come and park. I found it ridiculous that people had to run out of your restaurants and that we had to go home and not participate or not patron your restaurants. And we're new here. We always go to, like everybody said, the other beaches and go to downtown where it's free parking. But it was very upsetting to see that they were handing out when there was nobody parking. There was two spots taken, and you're handing out tickets. How frustrating is that for people who want to go there and eat? To local restaurants. That's all I have to say.
Russell, good game.
So just a quick add to my wife's statements. We did come down here to patronize Carolina Beach. We love Carolina Beach. We really do. We pay the fee to go to Freeman Park. We don't mind paying a fee to come here year-round if we could extend OTB parking. I think a lot of people would do that. To that end, Wilmington has 118,000 residents. If 5% of those actually bought that over the bridge parking, you'd increase your revenue by $600,000. That's 20% of all the money you're making last year, the $2.6 million. So I would just recommend, in short, that you offer over the bridge parking permits to the residents of Wilmington. I heard you guys talk about people in Monkey Junction, same idea. If you could extend that parking to them year-round, we would come down here and spend $100 a night, maybe $5,000 a year, maybe $10,000 a year. You're missing out from one family by having those parking fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Jones.
Hello, I'm Patricia. We moved here in 2014, and we worked really hard, 5 years, to get our business up and running. And beginning in February of 2014, I remember doing cartwheels down the middle of Lake Park Boulevard. No one was open. No one was here. Businesses weren't even open. So we started a campaign. We met with the Chamber of Commerce, still a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We had Steve and Juliet Wright start a promotion of local, be local, support local, buy local. So we really worked hard on that. In fact, the newspaper did pick that up. And I remember Joe Cohen from Squiggly's coming to visit me with a lot of marks on that article and said I'd lost my damn mind. You know, we don't need to be open year-round. So I just wanted to let you know that, yes, that's the age of when we started a campaign for year-round here. During those 5 years of attending council meetings, I remember all the heated conversations over Freeman Park. I don't have a Freeman Park pass anymore, and I don't drive on Freeman Park. It did change me, but I remember complaining and stuff. And I think one of the things that was lacking is just my knowledge base on it. But But the complaints were the trash and how much were the services for emergency services, the toilet paper, and we went to $150 to cover those costs. And I think that's some of that arguing. It was just really hard to get information out because we don't have a local news. We don't have a local newspaper on a daily basis that we can turn to. So that leads to a lot of complaints about things that we just don't have knowledge about. Because I did hear you say about extending parking passes over there, but I sat through that meeting with, we can't legally extend a parking pass to non-residents. The only reason we can do that for Curry Beach is because we share a sewage system with them. So that's really not a possibility. So it's not like anybody's being punished, and it would be remiss with those 1,300 spaces if I sold you a parking spot and then you don't have any place to park. And I sat through all those complaints during meetings. We also had complaints about where will our employees park. But my point is that we worked so hard to bring year-round business, and those negative comments by those Facebook warriors, especially over that election period, that really damaged the image of Carolina Beach. So I think the very first thing we need to do is to start a campaign where we turn the image of Carolina Beach around. We need to promote that our parking is only $5. It is only $25. I do want to, I know I'm running out of time, but I'm going to be Dennis Barber for a moment. Some of the things that when we first started talking about parking, the complaints in this room were from people on C-band. People are parking in front of my yard. Do we get a parking garage for more people to come? But the cons were so much bigger. It was ugly. It was costly to maintain. And it would take years and years to generate any revenue from building a parking garage. So that's why we nixed that. But how many people know that is my point there. So definitely a positive campaign and a better way to get information to our people is a big struggle for all of us. Definitely the consistency, how much, and promoting. The other thing was that we went to 2 hours of parking in this room because the downtown businesses were complaining that people were paying for the parking meters and taking them up all day long so that nobody could they would go out to the beach and then they didn't have a place for their customers to park. So a lot of things to think about there too. What I heard this summer, I do get phone calls all the time. Do I have parking? I've never had that in 10 years, but I get them now. What I heard were the complaints about the fines. I would say definitely make the fines in alignment with the offense. If you're late 15 minutes to your parking meter, it should be $25, not $100. If you're 1 hour late, it's $50. After that, you're not late anymore. You just ignored it. What happened in this room over the course of 10 years was that, okay, last thing, the $40 fine was not enough. People were risking not paying the $25 because the fine was too low.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
thank you.
David Cole, I missed you somehow as you're up here now. Just saw his name.
If I never have to step in front of y'all again, it will be too soon, I promise. My name's David Cole. I live at 205 Greenville Avenue on Hurricane Alleys. I moved here in 1996. I've had several businesses. I've had several employees. I don't even know how many. But I remember a time back in the 90s and early 2000s that Carolina Beach was dead. And whenever we invested in 2013 for that new boardwalk, it brought life to the central business district that we didn't have before. I'm kind of going off key, but I want to talk about I don't know what's a good that comes from this year-round parking. There's several things that are wrong with it. There's on-season, off-season. We've got to make it simple for people. Like Wayne said and other people said, it's whenever it is, whatever y'all come up with, but we have a winter here that nobody comes to the beach. Our attraction is the beach. That's why people come here. That's why y'all moved here. That's why I moved here. That's why everybody comes here is the beach. If the weather's not good, they're not coming to the beach. But they would stop at Hurricane Alleys or the Dive or wherever. But now people are so pissed off that they're not even coming to Carolina Beach. And for the first time, I worked for the city of Wilmington for I don't even know how long, 8 years or something like that. But back then, people hated Wrightsville Beach, and we loved Carolina Beach. But now it's the opposite. They hate Carolina Beach, and they're going to Wrightsville Beach because it's free. We've run people away from our island. We spend $1 million a year trying to bring people here, and when they get here, they get a $100 ticket. We've got to fix the predatory parking. I know a lot of you and the police are in Carolina Beach or in the Central Business District, but I bet none of you is there as much as I am. And I see it every day. I see how I will watch the parking ambassadors watch other people. As they walk off, they will walk to their car and give them a ticket. I watched it today. Nobody on Lake Park Boulevard from the Scotsman, I was pulling out of my house, and the parking lady passed me, and I happened to get behind her. Down the road, a guy pulls off the road like he's going to park. The parking woman pulls over. I pull over. I'm just watching her. Luckily enough, the guy, he sat there for a few minutes, and he turned around and left. She pulls out and leaves. I've witnessed these ambassadors illegally parking to get out and give a parking ticket for illegal parking. I tell the one guy, hey man, write yourself a ticket after you write him a ticket. And he laughs and says, yeah, I should, and gets in his car and drives off. All this stuff is ridiculous, and it's hurting everybody in here, one way or the other. These people that live in Carolina or in New Hanover County and live over this bridge, they're not just neighbors, man. They're family. Their kids go to school here. They support everybody, and everybody's worried about their taxes going up $1, $2. We've made so much damage in 2 years over this BS parking deal that it's going to take forever to get our image back. You can blame me for going on Facebook. I'm one of them keyboard warriors. Anybody got a problem with that? I'll be outside for a little while. But this is ridiculous, and it's got to be fixed. Predatory parking, off-season, over the bridge, people. We got to fix it. Thank you.
Jeanette Koshaw.
Hi, so I'm Jeanette Koshar. I live at 710 Carolina Beach Avenue North, Unit 1A. And I've lived here for 4 years. I don't own a business. And I'm focusing more on what happens in the summertime. And I want you to think outside the box. So I'm asking, why would it be a good idea to have other ways to get to Carolina Beach than in a car? So, because it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And again, I'm just talking about the summertime. But some people have said, oh, it's only $25. Well, for some families, that's just too much money, and it keeps them from not coming here, and I feel like we want to be welcomed, everybody. So, and a lot of times we focus so much on the hows, and we stop, and we really need to think about the whys. So why would it be a good idea to have other ways to get here other than over Snow's Cut? And so want us to think about public transportation or some kind of shuttle or trolley that would get people here without having to pay for parking. It wouldn't be for everybody because people bring a lot of stuff or they may be able to pay for parking, but it's just getting busier and busier here. Every time a little home gets torn down, there's 6 or 8 units, so we have more and more people living here. And we can just see the traffic just gets worse. So I know it seems like, oh my God, how could we ever do that? But if we think about a way to be able to do that so that there would be some central place for people to park off the island and have public transportation that would come here, either some kind of trolley system or a bus. I have a friend who's blind, and it takes her 2 hours to get from Wilmington to Carolina Beach. And that's just not acceptable, not just for blind people, for anybody who might want to take public transportation. Thank you.
Alex Torres.
Thanks for having us out tonight. My name is Alex Torres. I live at 310 Spencer Fowler Drive. I moved here a little less than 20 years ago. This time of year, when you drive down Lake Park, the lights would flash. There was nowhere to eat. The gas stations were closed. Food Lion was closed. It was a bummer. It was a real bummer. Since then, there have been so many great restaurants and places to eat. A lot of these people are friends of mine that own these restaurants, so I'm talking to them a lot. This parking situation is really hurting the businesses. And if you guys haven't heard that yet, I keep hearing, oh no, the businesses are doing great. They're not. It's really affecting us. One of the reasons we moved here is I love the ocean, love to surf. I surf probably 3 times a day. My friend and I have this little game we play with the parking people, because as soon as I pull up, they will back up behind me. So I'll swing my door open so they can't see my license plate. And they'll sit there and wait. It is so bad. I mean, one time I got a ticket in a dirt lot for not parking between the lines. That's ridiculous. I got my money back. Thanks for the town. I got my money back. But that was silly that I'd have to write an email to the town saying, I didn't park between the lines in a dirt lot. Way too aggressive in the parking. I don't want to see this town go back to me having to drive a half hour to get food for my family. And I think that's what it's turning to, because I keep hearing these restaurants say, we're going to close in the winter. That's terrible. I understand we need the money to pay for things. I think we need to find other creative ways to do that. If we charge more in the summertime, that's fine. This is a supply and demand thing. There's no parking. People will pay more. The parking lots are empty right now. The restaurants are empty. The fact that the town and the council can't see that is why everyone's in an outrage, and that's why Facebook is blowing up. I'm David Cole. I'll see you guys outside after the meeting.
John Iorfino?
Hello, my name is John Iorfino. I live at 1405 Croker Ave. My family and I have been, we've moved to Carolina Beach in 2020. We've been in Wilmington since 2006. We've loved coming to Carolina Beach. That's why we've worked so hard to finally get to Carolina Beach. I currently work for Cheney Brothers, which is a local food distributor. And before that, I was a local beer rep for about 17, 18 years. Been servicing the Carolina Beach Market, Wrightsville Beach Market, and the greater area of Wilmington since 2006 when I moved here. I get to see what's going on daily in the market and how the parking situation is affecting our beloved town of Carolina Beach. And more importantly, the people it's affecting. That's who it's affecting. And that's what it's all about, is the people who live here, work here, and visit here. And that's who the parking is hurting, everyone. And that's what I don't understand, why we are the only beach in North Carolina paying for parking in the off-season. Like I said, I go down to Wrightsville, it's free to park. And I believe it needs to go away immediately before businesses go away. And they close their doors and people lose their jobs, all because you wanted a little extra money in the off-season. Which it can't be that much money because there's no one in the parking spaces. I was able to count, there are 70 restaurants, bars, or other small businesses that I've serviced in just Carolina Beach alone. Each restaurant today has about 2 to 3 cooks, 5 to 15 servers, dishwashers, managers, owners, etc. A lot of people. That's a lot of employees infected by the decision, by people not coming here and people going to lose their jobs. And some of these, and all these businesses on the island provide, like I said, hundreds of jobs to local residents, including myself and my son who works at a local restaurant, but that are being affected by the yearly parking. And some of these small businesses have done so much for this community that I've seen anyone else do. For example, Buzz's Roost. He gives out free meals to people in need during the holidays. I don't see anyone else doing that. You got Hurricane Alley's Naughty Dog picking up trash around town in their free time. These are accounts and people that live here and are providing free services to make your town better. All I have to say is lift the parking, stop the greed, so people can survive, live, and enjoy the beach like God intended. And that's all. Thank you.
Danny Tangredi.
Danny Tangredi, 1309 Benito Lane. I also am a business owner. I own Wake and Bake Donuts. I do want to thank you for putting this together. And I think by the turnout, it's obvious that the parking fight is not over. Unlike some, I believe it is our job, the citizens of this community, to make our voice heard and get this resolved. What are we fighting for? Because it's not ourselves. We have parking passes, we're locals. We're fighting for our friends and our neighbors across the bridge so that they have a place to come that's close by and that they can use during the off-season. We're not asking for anything during the season, we're just asking for off-season parking. Parking, in my opinion, is a barrier to business. Anytime that you have to spend money to go inside of a business and then also spend money, that is a barrier. It's created a really bad look for our town, and I think that's very obvious. Some of our friends over the bridge have decided not to return because of it. My family is included in that. I think the basic concept is we need to be a parking-friendly town in the off-season. We cannot continue to nickel and dime people in the months where it's colder and slower. Businesses shouldn't be using their marketing platforms to promote that they will pay for parking. They should be using it to promote their services. In my opinion, we have 3 tourist seasons. We have summer, we have the spring and fall, and we have the winter. A lot of people have brought up the fact that we should have on and off parking, and I could see that being very easy to understand and working. But I also see that we are busy in the fall and spring as well, and there is opportunity to collect revenue. My main reason for getting up is not because I gain anything from this. I don't have a business at the boardwalk. I have friends, and I have friends that own businesses there, and I have friends over the bridge. So the reason I'm very vocal about this is because that's what they're telling us. They're telling us that they're not coming here anymore because of this policy. And so if they're not doing that and they don't have anybody to talk for them, then I guess that's where we step in to talk and represent them. The 2 things that I've seen that I think you guys can improve upon is I'm not really sure how we're collecting parking revenue when it's supposed to be free. I know that when I go downtown and spend money to park, the system that they use won't allow me to pay when it's after the time. And so I think somehow our parking system is still charging folks even on those free days. So if we have Black Friday or the weekends, Monday through Wednesday, I'd like to see that switch be turned off so that nobody can pay, even if they make a mistake, because that does happen. And I also will reiterate what a lot of people had stated tonight. The parking company that we are using is very aggressive. And I don't know if it's because they have some sort of incentive to be aggressive, but that aggressiveness is what's causing people to turn away and go to other beaches. Thank you.
Catherine Robbins.
Catherine Robbins, 301 Ivy Lane, Carolina Beach. So I'm a resident of this island. I am an employee of a business of this island. I am a business owner of this island, and I also own commercial property on this island. So I kind of focus, I am a little bit of everywhere. I am not in the CBD area in my business, but just as a resident, please clarify the signage. I get confused. I don't know where I can park where my town lot is allowed. I don't know. I drive around, especially around the Nollies and that area, make different colors for where town passes are allowed, where town passes are not allowed. Clarify to make it easy. But most of all, I just want to focus my time on the fact that, just like Danny just said, please do something about the predatory parking. The fact that you guys raised citation in your budget from $80,000 to $300,000 in 2 years is insanity, because citations should never be part of a budget. It should be some extra on the side, but it should not be part of a budget, because you should have clear rules in regards to parking so that people don't get citations. So that's my note. And when you have people coming to this island and they get citation, just like a lot of people said previously, it creates a very negative, just they won't come back. My business is not on the boardwalk, but I have so many patrons coming in telling me that, well, we got a citation on the boardwalk, so we're coming here to eat, but I will never be back. And that is wrong, because, and the amount of negative publicity that the last, year and a half, 2 years has cost Carolina Beach is going to damage us dramatically over the next couple of years. So you need to focus on clarifying the rules, make it super simple. Also remember, we have elderly that don't know how to use text to park. So, and provide other options for that, and make sure that you focus a lot of time on advertising, making sure that we are bringing people back to the beach and letting them know that we're not going to have that kind of predatory parking. And I don't know what pivot. I have not seen the contract. I've asked for a copy of it, and hopefully one of these days I will be able to read it. Yep, there it is. So because I'm curious about why in the fact they are so gung-ho on giving people tickets. So I think, and then last thing I want to say, please take this forum, and I'm very grateful that you guys are doing it, and don't take it back, and don't come back with new rules, new changes. Come back with proposals that every one of our stakeholders, residents, business owners, people over the bridge can have some kind of vocal voice about before you actually make changes. Because that's what's happened in the past, and that's why we're still standing here, because the council makes changes without allowing anybody to speak or say something. Thank you.
Iris Barber.
Hi everyone, I'm Iris Barber. I just permanently moved here this year, but I fell in love with this island like a lot of people several years ago, and I'm able to work remotely, so I'm here all the time. I have 3 parking issues that I want to echo. The first one on the signage for those private lots. It is absolutely insane and ridiculous that those colors are the same and so similar. Please make them change the colors. If they just were forced to use different colors, I think a lot of people would be able to follow that. The second is for local streets. My friend has a rental property on Snapper Lane. There was a lot of construction there when she first moved in. All the construction workers were parking and not getting tickets across the street from her house. So when she had extra guests and they parked across the street, they got tickets. And there's no signage. So let's please get the signage right. And then my third point is something that I think some people have kind of touched on, but this deals with small businesses. I'm still finding the places that I love here. One place I love is Neapolitan. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been there. I don't understand why they are required to provide 20 free parking spaces before they can fully be the business they intended to be. It doesn't make sense. My understanding is initially they were told they only had to provide 15 parking spaces, and then they figured out a way to provide 15 parking spaces, and then the rules were changed to say, no, you have to provide 20 free parking spaces. I personally think it's idiotic for us to be encouraging people to drive to a wine bar to drink. This is a very walkable island. So putting that part aside, let's just be encouraging and supportive of our small business owners. I think that a lot of this parking things, we've talked about how it impacts negatively our businesses. So this is just another point that I wanted you guys to please think about. with respect to how we're supporting our small businesses. Thanks for my time, guys.
Amanda Haslow.
All right. Amanda Hassler, Hamlin Avenue, Carolina Beach, Wilmington native. Live here, work here, at a small mom and pop hotel. I was given a group text message 3 days ago to go ahead and file for unemployment. This is the first time in my life that I've thought about going across a bridge with my "Don't Make Me Go" OTB bumper sticker to go find work. There's not a whole lot of commercial activity. Nobody needs any services. No big deal. I have 3 talking points: parking software, winter parking, and OTB passes. First, with the parking software, still crap. I had a guest last week, a couple elderly guests. They went to the North End. They couldn't get the app to work. I guess they didn't know about the text to park. They gave up. They came back to lodging. They were disappointed that they couldn't do that part of their trip because they had planned to do that, but they just gave up and said, you know, screw it. We'll just hang out in the motel. Losing out a lot of revenue there. They need some sort of, I can just call this number with my flip phone and I can reserve my space so I can do this for my trip. With 1 out of 4 or 5 houses being a lodging center, I hate to know that all these people are just getting upset and just going back to their lodging going, you know what, maybe next year we won't do this because we couldn't figure out the app. Winter parking, it's pretty much done deal. We got 3 people on council. They want it free. It's going to happen. If it don't, then I got lied to. Over the bridge passes. Now, the town of Oak Island has 1,400 parking spaces, and they might own all those, they may not. I don't know. I didn't have time to ask. I was too busy looking for work because I was just told to get file unemployment. So, out of those 1,400 spaces, we had a nice little presentation from Otto, and they said we didn't have a problem with running out of parking spots, except for 5 days of the year. So, with them offering 1,000 passes for the OTB residents, they had no problem with the residents clogging up their beach accesses and their revenue, except for 5 days out of the year. 5 days here out of the year, we almost run out of water, so, you know, whatever. Honestly, I enjoyed what Otto had to say with his presentation. I don't know where Pivot is tonight. Maybe they're here, maybe they're not, I don't know. But I think Otto may have a better software, may have a better system. I'm tired of hearing about the Facebook warriors. TripAdvisor, there's 1,500 vacation rentals. So I go and see what people have to say. I narrow it down, extrapolate 1 and 2 star reviews. It's nothing about parking, 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 parking. We're like a 3.5 to a 4-star beach because of that. I go to town of Oak Island, not one thing about parking. So I don't know what the difference is. Maybe they're treated better. I have seen some predatorial and fights and people being called vulgar names, our guests with Florida tags. I'm not happy about that. As a native, as a resident, it's hard to watch and not be able to do anything about it. So if they offer those 1,000 passes, and the first 3 days is on site, and the second 3 days is by phone, and once those 1,000 passes are gone, they're done. It's just a matter of first come, first serve. The surrounding community was happy with it. You know, even if some of them didn't get one, they just didn't get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to get their pass. Honestly, I've been wanting that for years, and I'm hurting that my friends don't want to come hang out with me anymore. I kind of want to go hang out and just move over the bridge and hang out with them. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is proximity. Now, when I was a little girl, we used to just walk unsupervised, you know, 12 years old, 13 years old, from the boardwalk to Jubilee Park. It was no big deal for us. As an adult, I still make that kind of walk without any problem. I don't know how we're going to deal with that. Like, I'm kind of interested in an apartment there, but how am I going to deal with everybody parking there for free? and then just walk into the boardwalk. How are the businesses gonna do? Are we just gonna rezone that to CBD and charge parking there? And just let everybody, all the businesses deal with the same field, or are we just gonna make it easy to walk? That's it for that. And so, yeah, give auto a shot. Once this contract is up, get your TripAdvisor reviews up by switching companies. Think about those passes. Winter parking is gonna be free. Let's do something about getting this software fixed. Thank you.
Chad Davis. I don't see Chad. Mark Miller.
See if I can get my phone to work here. I'm not good with the apps either. Decided many a time at the parking lot, I goats served down at Alabama and some other places, and I have people come over to me and say, hey, how does this app work? I can't tell them because I don't know. I'm fortunate enough I can buy a pass here. I've lived on the island, worked on the island 26 years. I moved to Wilmington. I'm Army brat, moved here in '74, never left. Loved the place. Yeah, when I first started working here, after in the wintertime, off season, I guess you'd call it, you could walk out on the road at 7 o'clock and you wouldn't see a headlight either way. The people down here, we worked like dogs to get this place to be a year-round place to live, where the businesses didn't close every night, every winter. With no over-the-bridge parking for these people from Monkey Junction that come here all the time, they should have an opportunity to buy some kind of a pass so they come down here. We shouldn't have parking in the off-season. We shouldn't be charging for it. If they have to put a nickel more during the summertime, we found out in the last couple of years that the tourists are willing to pay in the summertime. But, the wintertime, let's not do parking. The predatory parking, we used to complain about predatory parking for the tow trucks. The people that park their car go inside to sign up and they tow their car away. Now, the parking people are doing the same thing. This one day this past week, I was surfing down at Alabama. It's on a weekday. I was the only car in the parking lot. I got out of the water. I had gotten to my truck. I got an SUV, so the tailgate's lifted up, so you can't, I didn't think about it. And I'm changing, trying to get, and I see a little white car pull in. He did a nice little circle. I couldn't see who was in it because the windows are dark. Did a circle real slow, and then stopped and backed up a little bit and did a couple of things like this. And I said, oh, I know what he's looking for my tag. So I just left it up. He backed in across the parking lot from me. And I know he was there for 20 minutes because I just sat there and talked on my phone and did everything else. And then finally I closed my lid, got in the truck and left. Now, if he's getting paid by the hour, he was bound and determined to give me a ticket if he had a chance. That's predatory. That's not right. And I'm a local. Imagine what they're doing to the people that are coming down here to spend money. That hurts. It really does. Anyway, I'm getting off my subject here. But I'd like to see no parking, no fees in the off-season. That's a big thing for everybody. I don't know what we pay you guys a month or whatever for the parking, but I'd rather see, don't hit me, I'd rather see the meter maids get laid off in the off-season than our workers at our restaurants. And that's pretty much it. I appreciate your time, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone who came out tonight. Just went through the list. We got some good input, and we hear you, and we are working on proposals. We're going to submit to council. We'll take the input seriously. We'll review it all. We'll compile it. Council will see it, and we will present to them some ideas. Please, if you didn't speak, whatever, there's forms out there to fill out, and we will review those too. They'll be compiled with the list, same as the online. You can go on the website and fill them out. Just please have them submitted online or returned here by 5 o'clock tomorrow. So, thank you.